How did I get here?
Hello there guys, and welcome back to my next installment of the survival assessment video. I will be looking at my own species, a Dylanus, more specifically the American common Dylanus, scientifically named Dylanus, native to most of North America. Like other Dylanus species, it closely resembles humans due to convergent evolution, and it, along with other Dylanus species, is most closely related to hyenas and mongooses. My species was abused into doing work due to being mistaken for a human, as my species is the most human-like Dylanus species. But recent laws have protected all Dylanus species, including my own, thus ensuring that Dylanuses are free of stress and abuse. In this survival assessment, we will be seeing if my species could survive in hell. However, we will not be placing my species into a stereotypical fire and lava, pain and suffering, eternal torment hell that most people are familiar with. Because that is literally a death sentence to every Earth life except tardigrades, bacteria and viruses. As such, we will instead be placing Dylanuses into VivziePop's version of hell, as shown in Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. Here, we will be scoring how the Dylanuses will survive and possibly thrive if they make it through the initial travel into hell.
I wished I could go to the wild!
Now, my species inhabits mainly in forested areas, as long as there are heat water, a type of natural hot springs that keeps my species safe against predators such as bears, big cats and wolves, to name a few. Unfortunately, hell lacks any heat water pools, and that infernal environment is quite alien to my species.
Something is wrong here, I don't belong here.
Despite this, the environment of VivziePop's hell is only as hot as Earth's warmest summer days, so it should not be too much of an issue. And as long as there are plenty of food and water in hell, assuming they are safe for Dylanus consumption, my species should definitely do quite well in this infernal environment, so I'm giving my species a score of 7 out of 10.
Ew, what's that?
Although there are food and drinks in VivziePop's hell, it is not known if any of them are safe to consume by Dylanuses, considering that an earthly catfish was doused in hell's drink and became a giant demonic monster. However, there is always a chance that the food and drinks only negatively affects certain Earth species, and Dylanuses may not be one of those negatively affected. Plus, there's always hell rats and other small to medium-sized hell creatures that Dylanuses could feed on when given a chance. Although it would be difficult, there's always a chance for my species to adapt to these food sources, and I will be giving my species score a 6 out of 10.
I have a competition in me.
When it comes to competition in my species' native range, they have to deal with bears, raccoons, corvids, alligators, and, as of 1990s, the non-native monkeys. So, what competitors would my species face in VivziePop's hell? Well, these are the aforementioned hell rats, as well as hell crows, and even homeless imps and other similar species. With so many competition there, it is no wonder that my species would struggle, but my species still has a chance to successfully compete with them as they do back in North America on Earth. Because of this, I will be giving my species score a 6 out of 10.
She's gonna eat me!
And finally we have predators. Before we can talk about that, though, my species of Dylanus have the same weaknesses as humans, and will easily succumb to mortal wounds as they do back on Earth. As such, the Dylanuses will suffer the same mortality risks as those of humans upon entering hell. Not to mention that killer demons, like imps, as well as carnivorous demons such as cannibals will be a great danger to species like my own. These will put a major damp to my species' survival into hell. Although the chances of survival will be limited, it is not impossible for my species to survive, and I'll give them the survival score of 4 out of 10. If it weren't for the bloodthirsty demons like cannibals and others, my species would have thrived in VivziePop's hell with abundance food, drinks, suitable environments, and other necessities. However, with killer imps, it will be difficult for my species to survive, but not impossible, so my species' complete survival score is 6.3 out of 10. So, if my species do survive in hell, what would their descendants be like? Assuming that evolution and natural selection also occurs in VivziePop's animated world. Now, that's what we will be looking up. Now, if evolution and natural selection is a thing in VivziePop's heaven and hell, the latter of which is the topic for this video, the Dylanuses diverge into several lineages filling different niches in hell. In this video, we will be looking at 3 for the sake of this video's timing. The first species is the netherripper, or Carnomagphylax horridus. This 13-foot-tall, slender, almost completely black predatory Dylanus descendant has evolved to stalk the tight spaces, including alleyways, as it ambushes unsuspecting demonic prey, including imps. Unlike its ancestors, it has lost its near-sapient intelligence, having become a primordial beast in lifestyle, although some specimens have been recorded to mimic speech of their prey to lure prey into their grasp. As a result, this species has been feared by many hellborn demons. But to the powerful overlords such as Alastair, the netherripper is simply a weak competitor and must be destroyed, as the sinners who are overlords are too powerful for even the bravest netherripper to handle. The next Dylanus descendant is the Troopscroungia, or Nananthroides infernato. This is a diminutive, adaptable and sociable species that evolved a much smaller size, around 1.5 to 3.0 feet tall, to aid it in squeezing into tight spaces within demon-made buildings such as their apartments, restaurants, etc. As social and adaptable omnivores with much faster and more frequent reproduction, with gestation periods of around 3 to 4 months instead of 9, unlike their earthly ancestors, Troopscroungias are very common pests of many establishments. However, a few centuries ago, some populations had been kept as pets by some royal families such as the Arsgeisha and the Morningstar family, due to the Troopscroungia's fast reproduction and being easily trained and tamed, having since become the domestic Troopscroungia, or Nananthroides infernato luciferii, which is normally only kept by the royal family as a pet or a servant alongside their hellborn demon servants. The final Dylanus descendant here is the loud-mouthed bellower, or Titanolotherium of Renault. This massive, bulky and quadrupedal herbivore has evolved to fill a niche similar to elephants and rhinos of Earth. In general appearance, it closely resembles a long-extinct Australian marsupial diprotodon, but as a larger hairless tailless placental mammal. At up to 12 feet tall at the shoulders and around 20 feet long, it is a force to be reckoned with, being a social animal that lives in matriarchal herds led by a dominant female, while adult males are mostly solitary, similarly to the herd structures of Earth's elephants. Like elephants, the loud-mouthed bellowers have been domesticated and trained by both hellborn demons and sinners as beasts of burden, being used for construction and logging purposes whenever typical construction vehicles aren't available. Once a common sight in hell's zoos and circuses across all rings, the loud-mouthed bellowers have been removed from captive settings other than sanctuaries, due to animal rights reasons, although some zoos still keep them by updating their exhibits for the loud-mouthed bellowers to keep them happy, but sadly, the circuses in the greed ring still keeps and abuses the loud-mouthed bellowers for entertainment purposes to obtain more money, and this has caused some individuals to have snapped and either hurt or killed some hellborns, thus prompting animal rights groups to act against greed rings circuses. If you have any ideas of other Dylanus descendants that could evolve in hell, please let me know down in the comments below. And I will be seeing you next time.